Now think about it, what is a twisted story about the ability to make everything seem like it's smoke and mirrors, kind of like a magic trick? And what else is a story that also has a major punchline in a trending song at the moment? Well, if you mix those two together, this is that story. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Mystery Files, and I got a good trending story for you today. That's right, Midnight Mafia, and if you don't mind right now, please remember that you need to find the clue in each story. Tell me what it is with the timestamp in the comments to be entered into the giveaway. The next giveaway is coming up within this month, so I'll let you guys know who won. And you don't have to, but I'm just saying, if you get this up to 50 likes, then I might have something special planned for you. Also, we're gonna do something fun right now. I got my phone right now about to take a picture of my feet. In fact, it has been taken. Now, I wanna know in the comments right now, this will get you an extra entry into the giveaway. Am I wearing socks? Am I barefoot? Or am I wearing shoes? Put one of those three answers. I could be wearing slippers. You don't know. But if you're right, you get an extra entry into the giveaway. Who wouldn't want that? Would you not? Everybody wants that. So after 3 days, I will put that picture up, and then you guys will know who got the extra tickets into the giveaway. So without any further ado, as of now, it's time to slip into a mind that's not our own. Let's go. In the quiet town of Redding, California, a seemingly ordinary day took a sinister turn when Sherri Papini, a 34-year-old beautiful mother of two, vanished without a trace. Okay, it was November 2nd, 2016, and Sherri had just gone out for her routine jog that was right near her home, and it was something that she did almost every day, but this time, something out of the ordinary happened because she did not return home. Now, her disappearance kind of set off this chain of events that would captivate the entire nation and leave everybody wondering what happened to Sherri Papini. And as the hours turned to days, Sherri's husband Keith grew increasingly worried, of course, because he had no idea where his wife was. And he had come home from his job at Best Buy at the time, and he found an empty house with no sign of his beloved Sherri. But at that time, even though he was concerned, he still realized that, he might be able to find her by using this Find My iPhone app, which basically, if you have an iPhone or even an Android, there's these apps, and sometimes they're ingrained in the phone, other times you have to download them. But basically, it's where if you lose your phone, you can log into your computer or somebody else's phone and find your phone. And believe it or not, as Keith went on there trying to find Sherri, he actually managed to locate her phone. But when he got there, it was only the phone that was located, along with some earbuds near the intersection of a Sunrise Drive and Old Oregon Trail. I mean, this was only 1 mile away from their home, but Sherri was nowhere to be found. As you can imagine, trying to find your loved one through an application on your phone and saying to yourself, oh, thank God, she's only 1 mile away. Now I gotta go make sure that she's not hurt or something else. Only to go there and then to find out that she's not there at all. So he did what any sensible person in that situation would do. He tried not to panic, took a couple deep breaths, and then he called the Shasta County Sheriff's Department. And from there, the Sheriff's Department launched a huge investigation, combing the area for any clues that might lead to the whereabouts of this woman. And as the search grew and intensified, the community even came out together and rallied around the Papini family, offering support and prayers for Sherri's safe return. Plus, they went above and beyond by putting up all these flyers with her picture and name on them, and they were posted all over town. And social media was flooded with messages of hope and concern. But in a missing tale as old as time, days turned into weeks, and still there was no sign of Sherri. And at this point, clearly the authorities were baffled, unable to find any solid leads despite their best efforts. And of course, at this point, speculation started to run rampant, with theories ranging from a random abductor to something more sinister. And at this point, the husband, Keith, would actually go on local TV and make these very emotional pleas to the public, begging anybody with any information to just come forward. But nobody did, and it seemed as though Sherri had disappeared off the face of the earth. But then on Thanksgiving Day, November 24th, a miracle happened. Sherri was found! And believe it or not, she was found alive, somewhere around 150 miles south of where she had disappeared, on the side of County Road 17 near Interstate 5 in Yolo County. But it was obvious that her appearance was different because she was still wearing these restraints and showed signs of physical abuse, including a broken nose and a brand on her right shoulder. I mean, it was a shocking development that left everyone with more questions than answers. I mean, at that time, it seemed like somebody took her captive and then tortured her to the point where they even branded her like cattle. And people in the community were looking at each other and just saying, who around here would do such a horrible thing to another human being? So now finally, the police get to talk to Sherri. And according to her, she had been abducted by two Hispanic women who kept their faces hidden behind these masks the whole time, and that they had subjected her to this horrible ordeal, physically abusing her, and she said even cutting off her long blonde hair. And when she was finally released, Sherri weighed a mere 87 pounds, a shadow of her former self. But why? What was the motive? Now, some of you will probably remember this because the story made headlines all across the nation, with Sherri's name right on it, and with social media outlets clamoring over any scrap of information about the case that they could get. Law enforcement experts from all over the US weighed in, expressing doubts and confusion over the unlikely details and inconsistencies in Sherri's account. But for the most part, the public rallied behind her, offering her sympathy and support as she recovered from her traumatic experience. But as the investigation continued, however, and the authorities looked a little bit deeper and deeper into her story, there were these cracks that began to appear in Sherri's account of actually what happened. You see, the authorities actually found both male and female DNA on her clothing, none of which matched Sherri's story at all. And the DNA, of course, did not match her husband. And when ran through the FBI's combed DNA index system, also named CODIS, there were absolutely no hits. I mean, it was a perplexing development that raised even more questions about what really happened to Sherri during those 3 weeks. Because whatever truly had happened, Sherri was not being honest about it, which raised the question, who really took her and what really happened to her? But, you know, what can you do? Life went on, and months turned into years, and the case remained unsolved. A mystery in its truest form. And most of the time, mysteries like this we never get an answer to, but that is not the case in this story. You see, Sherri maintained her version of events, even when questioned by a federal agent and a detective from the Shasta County Sheriff's Office in August of 2020. And yes, she was advised that lying to a federal agent was a crime, but she stood her ground, insisting that her story was the real story and the truth. But the truth, as it turned out, was far stranger than fiction. In a shocking twist that nobody saw coming, Sherri Papini was arrested by the FBI almost 2 years later on March 3rd, 2022. And believe it or not, she was accused of faking her own kidnapping and lying to federal agents. The woman who had once been hailed a survivor, a symbol of resilience in the face of unspeakable trauma, was now facing charges of mail fraud and making false statements. And as the details of the case began to emerge, the public was kind of left stunned. It was revealed that Sherri had not been abducted at all, but had instead staged the entire thing in order to spend time with an ex-boyfriend, James Reyes, in Southern California. During the time she was supposedly missing, Sherri had been staying with Reyes while her husband and children were worried sick and searching for her to come back home. And the evidence against Sherri at this point was incredibly damning. DNA found on her clothing matched that of Reyes, who confirmed that she had been staying with him during the time of her alleged kidnapping. And you see, Sherri at that point had also received over $30,000 from the California Victim Compensation Board between 2017 and 2021. Funds that had been granted based on her fraudulent claims of being a victim to a violent crime. So faced with this overwhelming evidence against her, Sherri had little choice but to admit the truth. And 6 weeks after her arrest, she signed a plea deal. And she acknowledged that she had orchestrated the entire thing and it was just a hoax. Then in September 2022, she was sentenced to 18 months in prison in order to pay a $300,000 fine, a steep price for her deception. And of course, this revelation of Sherri's hoax sent shockwaves throughout the community and the nation at large, to be honest. Many who had been following her story and offered their support felt betrayed, struggling to comprehend why someone would go to such lengths to deceive those closest to them. And Keith Papini, the husband who had stood by his wife throughout the whole ordeal, filed for divorce and sole custody of their children just days after Sherri cracked and pleaded guilty on the fraud charges. So far, if you are enjoying the story, please give it a like for Keith Papini. He went through a lot, and at the end, he definitely did the right thing by leaving her, in my opinion. And as Sherri served her sentence, the public had to grapple with the aftermath of her deception. The case had consumed countless hours of law enforcement, resources, and taxpayer dollars, all in the pursuit of a crime that had actually never happened. And it was a bitter pill to swallow, a stark reminder of the lengths that some people will go in order to escape the realities of their own lives. But as for Sherri, her fate is now sealed. Her legacy forever tarnished by the choices that she made. She will have to live with the consequences of her actions, knowing that she not only deceived those closest to her, but had also betrayed the trust of an entire nation that had once celebrated her as a survivor. Now, lastly, if you have heard her name recently, it may be because of a song that came out last week called Houdini, and that song was by none other than Eminem, also known as Marshall Mathers. And at the very end of the song, with his album lingering about how Slim Shady is going to disappear, he rhymes Sherri Papini with Harry Houdini, because in a way they were both in the industry of disappearing, but with sleight of hand involved. It's crazy that just the thought of somebody kidnapping themselves and then lying to the police about it, all to garner sympathy or to spend time with a person that she was cheating on her husband with, just seems unfathomable. And you got to think, if Sherri has done this, there's probably other people who have done it as well. But I guess the real challenge is for me to find out who those people are and to make sure I tell them to you. Now, if you enjoyed this story and you want to watch another story that you may not have seen yet, I promise you'll like it. Just make sure to click right here. And also give all of your loved ones a hug tonight and let them know that you love them, because you never know when they might be gone from an accident or their own doing. Have a good day or night, Midnight Mafia. Cheers.